Hello, my name's Ros Scott. I'm a member of the House of Lords, where I have the title of Baroness Scott of Needham Market. I represented Needham Market on Mid Suffolk District and Suffolk County Council, and I still live very close to Needham Market, so I decided that I'd kind of recognise that in my title. I've been a member of the House of Lords now for coming up for 18 years. I've done a number of things in that time, but I've always put a particular focus on community involvement and community action. And as a result of that, last year when I saw that Community Action Suffolk was looking for some new trustees, I thought that would be something I'd really like to get involved with. So I'm pleased to say that I was appointed. I'm very sorry that I can't be with you for today's conference. This has come about as a result of a House of Lords Select Committee report, and I was a member of that committee. So in a way, I've got two real interests in today's business. But I hope you have a great day today, and thank you very much for coming. If you go back about 2 years, the charity and voluntary sector was very much in the news, and not necessarily in a good way. We'd had the fundraising issues, which came about after the sad death of Olive Cook. We'd also had a lot of dialogue about governance because of the collapse of Kids Company, and there was a lot of discussion about transparency and lobbying and so on. And I think there were many of us, particularly in the House of Lords, who were not just worried about those issues, but worried about whether it meant something deeper, whether there were trust issues with the sector, and particularly about the relationship between government and the charity and voluntary sector. So it seemed to be a good idea for the House of Lords to put together a one-off select committee to have a look at a whole range of issues which face the sector. We came together as a committee in the late summer of 2016, and we've got had a cross-party committee which also covered people from Scotland and Wales, and some people with a really long and serious background in the sector. We took written evidence from over 160 different sources. We had witness sessions at which people came and talked to us in person, and gave us the chance to question them. And we also had 3 roundtables outside London, in Manchester and Cardiff, as well as one in London. And at the end of that process, we went into sort of deliberative mode, and helped by a specialist advisor, we came up with a report which contained 100 different conclusions and recommendations, some of them aimed at the sector itself, some of them at government, and some of them specifically at the Charity Commission. We covered everything from governance issues to fundraising to social enterprise and social funding, impact bonds and so on, and some particular issues around commissioning, which were worrying us quite considerably. So that report was sent to government in the spring of 2017. They've just recently issued their response. The Charity Commission has issued its response. The sector moved into action much faster. I mean, the ink was hardly dry on our report before the sector nationally started to respond. And in a sense, I think today is part of that response. And it's really good to see my home county of Suffolk, getting in so quickly and thinking about our report, how it impacts on Suffolk and what it might mean for Suffolk. Our committee spoke to people right across the sector, but it very quickly became clear to us that the real challenges were amongst the smaller charities. Now, these do, of course, encompass the vast majority of charitable organisations in the country, and even the term small charities covers a variety from, a couple of people very devoted to one specific project to some quite significant enterprises. But we felt it was in this small sector that some of the challenges we picked up were really being felt most acutely. One area we particularly focused on was the role of trustees, who the committee feels are really the lifeblood of the charity sector. They're not some sort of legal nicety. It's really important to have trustees who are committed, who really understand their own organisation and what it's intended to do, and most importantly, have a really strong understanding of the up-to-date governance frameworks. And we really identified some problems in the trustee sector. First of all, it's quite difficult to get people to come forward. It's not something you kind of hear talked about, and we think there's actually quite a role for national government to really raise awareness of the trustees as a role. The committee think actually that the government should go further than just promoting the notion of trusteeship, but should actually consult on a statutory duty for employers to give time off for people who are trustees. And that's partly to reflect practicality, but it's also just to raise the whole profile of trustees. We also highlighted that although there are quite a lot of national infrastructure bodies, there's quite a lot of ignorance about what the role entails and about how to deal with some of the big challenges facing trustees. So we think that at national level, the infrastructure bodies need to work much more closely together so that they really understand what it is that is required, particularly in the smaller sector. We've picked up issues about diversity, for example, on trustee boards. And that's not just diversity in terms of ethnicity and gender, although that is important. It's also diversity in terms of background. There's a whole range of skills that you need nowadays on a trustee board, everything from digital to fundraising to accounting, maybe even a little bit of legal. So we think that partnerships between local businesses and the sector are really helpful in helping to generate trustee boards that are more diverse and have the skills that are necessary. The infrastructure bodies that the committee spoke to and heard from were mostly national bodies, and I think we were all very much persuaded by the importance of local infrastructure bodies. And that's really because locally these organisations have the reach, they can get right into this small charity sector. And we also think, in a sense, they have a credibility amongst that sector. There's a feeling that, actually, you're close to me, you understand our issues. And we were concerned about local infrastructure bodies because they've all been struggling with funding in recent years. And in fact, myself, I've picked this up as an issue in debates in the House of Lords probably for the last 10 years now. One of the things that really attracted me to Community Action Suffolk is that Suffolk bit the bullet a few years ago and brought together a lot of infrastructure bodies who were all doing good work, but who were all beginning to really struggle financially. So, there are financial benefits in coming together, but I think it's much more important than that. I think it's really good to have this reach. I think it's really important that infrastructure bodies are listened to, not just in the sector, but are listened to by, for example, the local council or the local health authority. So I think the strong feeling of the committee is that infrastructure bodies are absolutely vital to the health of this sector, and that those infrastructure bodies need to be healthy both nationally and locally. I'm really pleased that I've just been appointed as a trustee of Community Action Suffolk. I applied back in the summer, just like everybody else has, and I am really, really pleased that my application was successful. I've lived in Suffolk for more than 35 years now. When I came here, my background had very much been in the Air Force, my dad, my first husband, and I'd had a bit of a nomadic existence. And when I first came to Suffolk, the thing that really struck me was such a strong sense of community. And I really liked that. So we stayed here and I haven't left. My first sort of entry, I didn't know it at the time, but the thing that really led to my career in politics was many, many years ago when my children were small, and I set up a toy library in Needham Market, and it was the start of a sort of community action path for me. And although my career then went on to local council and then on to the House of Lords, for me the thing that really matters is local. I'm very rooted in Suffolk, very proud of my county, and I think it has a huge amount going for it. And that sense of community values and people working together, I think is as strong now as it ever has been. And the charity and voluntary sector is just really the absolute key to that. But, good intentions and hard work aren't enough on their own. It's a tough world out there. There's a regulatory framework, there's competition for funds. There's a whole host of challenges facing small charities. And I think a body like Community Action Suffolk is so important. We should have them absolutely everywhere. I think we're lucky in Suffolk to have such a good organisation, but it needs hard work and commitment, not just by the staff but by trustees as well, to keep going. So I'm very much looking forward to my time here in CAS. For CAS to be successful, it's really got to continue to engage all the time with our members and the people that we're here to support. And we need to be doing the things that you need us to do. So I'm hoping that today's conference is something that you will all find not just enjoyable, but also valuable in terms of what you learn, particularly in the workshops, but of course the real value of bringing people together, creating those networks and helping to build the stronger Suffolk that we know we all need. Have a great day.